buckle up, because we've got two tales today that will make you think twice about those late-night drives. In our first story, Nightmare on I-40, a trucker's paranormal journey, we will meet Hank. A seasoned trucker who thought phantom hitchhikers were just tall tales, until the loneliness of the long haul started playing tricks on him. Get ready for a chilling ride as Hank faces a ghostly woman on I-40 that will leave you wondering what else is out there in the darkness. Then, we're hitting our next story with Phantom Truck on Route 76, with another trucker who encounters something far more sinister than just fatigue. Imagine a phantom big rig, a ghostly woman by the roadside, and whispers on the radio that chill you to the bone. This is a story of a nightmare that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural, a ride you won't soon forget. So, grab your headphones, turn up the volume, and get ready to dive into the paranormal world of truckers facing their worst fears. Let's get started with Nightmare on I-40.
The hum of the engine was my lullaby, the white lines on the highway my metronome. I was born to the road, or so my old man always said. Trucking was in my blood, passed down like a rusty wrench and a love for lukewarm coffee. I'm Hank, and for the last 10 years, I've called the cab of my 18-wheeler home. Now, driving cross-country means a whole lot of nothing. Miles of asphalt, endless skies, and the occasional roadside diner. But it also means loneliness, and in the dead of night, when the world outside your window fades into a blurry black, the loneliness can play tricks on your mind. I'd always dismissed those old trucker tales, the ones about phantom hitchhikers and ghostly rigs, as sleep-deprived hallucinations. Until I started seeing things myself. It started subtly. A flicker in the corner of my eye, a feeling of being watched even when I was miles from civilization. I'd chalk it up to fatigue, crank up the radio, and try to shake it off. But then came the static. The radio would cut out, replaced by a piercing white noise that made the hairs on my neck stand up. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough to leave me shaken. The first truly unsettling experience happened outside of Gallup, New Mexico. I was hauling a load of lumber to Phoenix, and it was late. The moon was a sliver in the inky sky, casting long, distorted shadows across the desert landscape. I was cruising at a comfortable 70, the rhythm of the road keeping me awake, when I saw her. Standing on the shoulder, bathed in the eerie glow of my headlights, was a woman. She was wearing a long, white dress that rippled in the non-existent wind, and her face was hidden by a cascade of dark hair. Foolishly, maybe out of ingrained trucker politeness, maybe just plain curiosity, I slowed down and pulled over. "Need a ride, ma'am?" I called out, leaning across the seat. She didn't answer. She just stood there, motionless, her head bowed. I killed the engine and climbed out, the desert air surprisingly cold against my skin. As I got closer, a wave of unease washed over me. The air around her seemed to shimmer, to distort. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I asked, my voice wavering slightly. She finally raised her head, and I froze. Her face, it wasn't quite human. Her eyes were black, bottomless pits, and her mouth was stretched into a grotesque, silent scream. Before I could react, she lunged towards me. I stumbled back, scrambling for the cab. I slammed the door shut and fumbled with the keys, my heart pounding in my chest. I jammed the key in the ignition and slammed my foot on the gas. The tires spun momentarily before gripping the asphalt, and I tore away, glancing in the rearview mirror. She was gone. Just vanished. I didn't stop until I reached the outskirts of Albuquerque, practically vibrating with adrenaline and fear. I spent the rest of the night in a brightly lit truck stop, surrounded by the comforting noise of other drivers and the smell of greasy diner food. But even then, I couldn't shake the image of that woman's face. After that, the experiences became more frequent, more intense. I started seeing the same woman on different stretches of highway, always in the dead of night, always with that horrifying expression. Sometimes, I'd see her standing in the road, forcing me to swerve to avoid hitting her. Other times, she'd be reflected in my mirrors, her image superimposed over the road behind me. Then there was the rig. A huge, black truck with no lights, no markings. It would appear out of nowhere, tailgating me relentlessly, its horn blaring a low, guttural moan that vibrated through my entire truck. Every time I tried to get a look at the driver, I couldn't see anything but darkness. It always vanished just as suddenly as it appeared, leaving me shaking and sweating. I tried talking about it, telling other drivers about what I was seeing. But they just laughed, chalking it up to stress and lack of sleep. "You need a vacation, Jake," one old-timer told me, "before you end up driving yourself into a ditch." But it wasn't just the road, I knew it. Something was following me, something malevolent. I started researching local legends, ghost stories, anything that might explain what was happening. I learned about haunted stretches of highway, tragic accidents that had left lingering spirits, and tales of restless souls searching for peace. One story, in particular, caught my attention. It was about a woman named Sarah who had been killed in a car accident near Gallup, New Mexico, decades ago. She'd been left on the side of the road, her body undiscovered for days. Locals whispered that her spirit still haunted the highway, searching for someone to help her find closure. Could it be her? Was the woman I was seeing the ghost of Sarah, trapped between worlds, desperate for release? I didn't know, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow connected to her. The climax came on a lonely stretch of I-40 in Oklahoma. It was a moonless night, and the darkness was thick and oppressive. I was bone-tired, fighting to stay awake, when the static started again. The radio screeched, and the cab filled with an icy cold that seeped into my bones. Then I saw her. Not on the side of the road, but standing in the middle of my lane, bathed in the headlights. This time, she wasn't silent. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the night, a sound that echoed in my soul. I slammed on the brakes, the tires locking up and sending my rig into a skid. I braced myself for the impact, the image of her face seared into my mind. But it never came. The truck shuddered to a halt, the engine sputtering and dying. I sat there for a moment, paralyzed with fear, listening to the silence. Then, slowly, cautiously, I opened the door and climbed out. She was gone. But this time, something was different. The air felt lighter, cleaner. The oppressive darkness seemed to have lifted. And as I looked around, I noticed something lying on the side of the road. It was a small, faded photograph. A picture of a young woman with long, dark hair and a gentle smile. On the back, scrawled in faded ink, was a single word, Sarah. I picked up the photograph, a strange sense of peace washing over me. I knew, somehow, that it was over. That Sarah had finally found her rest. I spent the next few hours waiting for a tow truck, staring at the photograph in the glow of my flashlight. I never saw the black truck again. The static on the radio disappeared. And the feeling of being watched vanished. I still drive, still haul freight across the country. But now, when I'm out on the lonely highways late at night, I don't feel fear. I feel a sense of responsibility. A reminder that even in the vast emptiness of the road, there are stories untold, spirits unseen, waiting for someone to listen. And sometimes, all they need is for someone to see them, to acknowledge their existence, to help them find their way home. Maybe that's what trucking is really about. Not just hauling cargo, but carrying the weight of the road, the memories of the past, and the hopes of the future. Maybe it's about being a guardian of the highway, a silent witness to the stories that unfold in the darkness. And maybe, just maybe, it's about helping a lost soul find its way home.
Being a truck driver had its perks. The open road, the freedom to explore far-off towns, and a schedule that, while grueling, offered a unique rhythm to life. The Kansas blacktop stretched infinitely, gleaming under the afternoon sun, and the horizon shimmered like a mirage. It was just past midday, and my rig rumbled down the highway, a steady thrum under my feet. I had always enjoyed long hauls, those solitary stretches where my thoughts were the only passenger. But the truth is, something had changed. It wasn't just the unease that curled in my stomach or the whispers I sometimes thought I heard when the night was thick. No, something darker lurked on this stretch of road, and it thrived in the lonely hours of twilight. I'll never forget my first encounter. It was during a routine trip from Denver to St. Louis, just another drive on a familiar route. The sun dipped low, casting shadows that elongated and twisted alongside my truck. As night fell, visibility dipped, and I relied on my headlights to pierce through the gathering darkness. At a small, no-name diner just off the interstate, I made a pit stop for a greasy burger and a cup of coffee. As I sat alone, I overheard a group of truckers huddled around a corner booth, exchanging ghost tales and urban legends. They spoke of something sinister lurking along Route 76, a phantom truck that appeared suddenly, only to vanish in an instant, leaving madness in its wake. I chuckled, dismissing it as the usual drivel. I had never seen anything supernatural. All I wanted was to finish my shift. But as I drove back onto the highway, something felt different. The air thickened, and the weight of silence pressed against my chest like a suffocating blanket. My radio flickered, crackling with static before tuning into an eerie channel that played a garbled mix of ghostly whispers. I fiddled with the dial, irritated, but the other stations faded in and out, leaving only that disconcerting message. "Help us," it whispered, a chorus of tortured voices reaching through the ether. Suddenly, a shadow shot across the road, a glimmer of chrome and steel. I swerved, narrowly avoiding a head-on collision with a truck that had materialized from nowhere. It was massive, its cab gleaming as if freshly polished, black smoke curling from the exhaust like tendrils of some dark apparition. Heart racing, I glanced in my rearview mirror, but it was already gone, disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. I shook my head, trying to anchor myself in reality. Dismissing it as fatigue, I pressed on, but the feeling of being watched thrummed in my veins. Hours passed, the road stretching endlessly before me. Somewhere around midnight, I decided to pull over. The loneliness of the road tugged at me, and I needed a break. I parked in a rest area, the stillness only broken by the rustling of leaves as a cold wind whispered through the trees. I stepped outside for a moment, the chill hitting me from the road. As I sat in my truck, the sensation of being watched crept back, curling around my spine. I turned toward the trees bordering the lot, squinting into the darkness. That's when I saw her. A figure, pale and gaunt, standing between the trees, illuminated only by the flickering light of my truck. She wore a long, tattered dress that flowed around her like mist, her hair wild and tangled. As I peered closer, the air grew colder, the wind stilled, and my heart thundered as she took a step forward. I slammed the door, heart racing, convinced I was hallucinating. I grabbed my phone, desperate for something to ground me. The screen lit up, and I noticed the time, 12:01 a.m. I pinched my arm, hoping to awaken from this nightmare, but as I looked back, she was gone. Shaken, I decided to keep driving. I returned to the road with a weight in my chest, but the darkness seemed deeper. The road twisted and turned, leading me to the eerie specter of forgotten towns and dilapidated buildings that appeared and faded like dreams. The miles blended into one another, punctuated by dread. Then came the whispers again. They snaked through the air, swirling around me as if drawn to my truck. "Help us," they called, echoing off the empty asphalt. I gripped the wheel tighter, fear clawing at my throat. Who were they? What did they want? I needed to escape. Every bump in the road felt like a bludgeon, and every corner I turned seemed to lead me deeper into the unknown. At that moment, I spotted headlights in my rearview mirror. Relief washed over me. Another trucker. But the relief gave way to dread when I realized the truck was the same one that had nearly taken me down hours ago. Its headlights glowed ominously, narrowing in on me like the eyes of a predator. I floored the accelerator, my rig roaring as it surged forward, the speedometer climbing past 80, 90, 100. The phantom truck behind me kept pace effortlessly, its headlights blazing like twin suns in my mirrors. Sweat dripped down my face, stinging my eyes as I clutched the wheel in a white-knuckled grip. My heart pounded in my chest like a jackhammer, and my breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. The world around me seemed to narrow to the stretch of asphalt ahead and the relentless predator closing in behind. Every mile marker blurred past in a green streak, and the darkness outside felt alive, as if it were pressing in on me from all sides. My phone lay useless on the passenger seat, no signal to call for help. I was completely alone. The truck behind me edged closer, its bumper inches from mine. I could feel its heat radiating forward, could smell the acrid stench of its exhaust. My mirrors filled with the glare of its headlights, and for a moment, I was blind, driving solely by instinct. I swerved, veering into the opposite lane, but the phantom truck mirrored my move. its tires screeching in unison with mine. It was toying with me, and I knew it. A sign flashed by, an amp, NBSP, next exit, 1 mile. Desperation clawed at me, and I made a split-second decision. I yanked the wheel hard to the right, taking the exit at the last second. My tires skidded on the gravel, and the rig fishtail edged dangerously before I managed to straighten it out. For a moment, I dared to hope I'd lost the phantom truck. But then, in my rearview mirror, I saw it take the same exit, its tires floating over the ground as if it defied the laws of physics. The exit led to a narrow, winding road that snaked through dense woods. Trees loomed on either side, their branches creaking ominously in the wind. My headlights cut through the darkness, casting long, twisted shadows on the road ahead. The world felt smaller here, more claustrophobic, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being herded towards some unknown fate. The phantom truck stayed close now, its grille filling my mirrors. I could see nothing of the driver. No face, no shape, just an endless void where the cab should have been. It was as if the truck itself was alive, a monstrous entity driven by some malevolent will. My fear gave way to a primal, gut-wrenching terror as I realized I was trapped, with no escape from this nightmare. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the phantom truck vanished. One moment, it was there, its headlights burning into my mirrors. The next, it was gone. The road ahead was empty, and the only sound was the rumble of my engine and the soft crunch of gravel beneath my tires. I slowed, my chest heaving, and dared to hope that it was over. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe it was just my tired mind playing tricks on me. But as I rounded a curve, I saw it. A figure stood in the middle of the road, bathed in the cold glow of my headlights. It was a woman, or what had once been a woman. Her dress was tattered, her skin deathly pale, and her eyes black as coal. She raised a bony hand, and I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop just feet away from her. For a moment, we stared at each other, frozen in time. Then, she vanished. I didn't stop to think. I threw the rig into gear and flooring it, the tires spitting gravel as I sped away. The woods seemed to close in around me, the shadows writhing like living things. I didn't dare look in the mirrors, fearing what I might see. The road twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of nowhere. Every mile I drove, the darkness seemed to grow thicker, more oppressive. I could feel it wrapping around me, suffocating me. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my hands trembled on the wheel. I was running out of options, and I knew it. Then I saw it, a dilapidated gas station on the side of the road, its sign crooked and rusted, and NBSP, open 24/7. It read. I didn't hesitate. I skidded into the lot, my tires crunching on the broken asphalt. The station was a squat, crumbling building with boarded-up windows and a front door that hung crookedly on its hinges. But it was shelter, and I needed shelter. I leapt from the cab, slamming the door behind me. The cool night air hit me like a slap in the face, but I barely noticed. I staggered toward the station, fumbling for the door handle. It creaked horribly when I pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty lot. Inside, the station was musty and dark, the air thick with the scent of decay. A flickering fluorescent light overhead cast eerie shadows on the walls. I slammed the door shut behind me and leaned against it, my chest heaving as I struggled to catch my breath. For the first time in hours, I felt a fragile sense of safety. But it didn't last. Behind me, the light flickered and died, plunging the station into total darkness. I froze, my heart pounding in my ears. Then I heard it, the low rumble of an engine, growing louder with each passing second. The headlights of the phantom truck illuminated the cracks in the boarded-up windows, casting an otherworldly glow over the road. I backed away, my eyes fixed on the door as if it might hold against the horror that was coming for me. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't. The engine roared, and the truck crashed through the front of the station, splintering wood and metal as if they were paper. I screamed, the sound lost in the cacophony of destruction. Then everything went black. When they found my rig the next morning, it was abandoned on the side of the road, the engine still running and the headlights still shining. But I was never seen again. And if you ever find yourself driving through those woods at night, you might still hear the sound of my scream echoing through the trees. Or, if you're unlucky, you might just see me, still driving, still running, forever trapped in the nightmare of that one.
All right, folks, that was chilling. Two separate journeys on the open road, two encounters with the kind of terror that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. Hank's brush with the spectral hitchhiker, possibly the lost soul of Sarah, and the relentless pursuit of the phantom truck on Route 76 paint a vivid picture of the isolation and the unknown that lurk just beyond the headlights. What these stories remind us is that the long stretches of highway, while often mundane, can also be places where the veil between worlds feels thin. The sheer solitude, the fatigue, the endless darkness, it can all play tricks on the mind, or perhaps, it allows us to perceive things we normally wouldn't. Hank's experience offers a glimmer of hope, a sense that sometimes, these encounters might even have a purpose, a way for a lost spirit to find peace. But the tale of the phantom truck and the missing driver, that leaves us with a lingering sense of dread. A reminder that some encounters might be truly malevolent, leaving only unanswered questions and a chilling void. So, the next time you're out on a long drive late at night, maybe turn down the radio for a moment. Listen to the hum of your engine, watch the shadows dance in your mirrors, and remember these stories. Because out there on the lonely roads, you never know what might be driving alongside you. Stay safe out there, and sleep tight if you can. Hey, horror fans. If you enjoyed our chilling tales and want to keep the spine-tingling stories coming, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Share this video with your friends, let's spread the fear together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a hair-raising moment. Join our community of thrill seekers and prepare for more eerie adventures. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared.